it's important that your long-term decisions are influenced by what the plan is. So where are you right now and where are you trying to go? That is going to inform the brands you take. That is going to inform the people you hang around. That is going to inform the collaborations you say yes to. That is going to inform how much you charge right now. But one thing became very clear to me at the time. It was that because I've started this new page, I can no longer run it the same way that I used to run the previous page. And also number two, I was trying to collect data around what people are actually struggling with within their businesses, within their content creation, so that I could start creating products and content and videos that will be able to help them. And usually sometimes I know we do this via like polls on the internet, and sometimes people respond, sometimes they don't. But for me, having that one-on-one almost like really gave me in-depth research. Once you've seen the quote and once you've seen what they want to charge you, give them a call, and after you give them a call or during the call you say to them, hi, I just saw this, my actual price is actually 25k and I saw you offering 10k. Is there a way that we can come to a middle ground? I'd be so excited. Hello, Resonate community, and welcome to the best and the biggest sales and entrepreneurship podcast in the whole wide world. Now, just a little over 2 years ago, I was on my way to the mall. We were hosting a braai and I was going to go buy some meat. We were about to have, I think, what would be like a nice chilled Saturday afternoon until I received a notification on my phone that basically told me that I no longer had access to my Instagram account. Now, at the time, I'd been building it for years. I'd been making so much money with it, and it basically was my bread and butter if you especially are a creator. And just like that, I lost my Instagram account. I had brands in the pipeline. I had so much work lined up for me, and I lost a big chunk of that revenue and a big chunk of that work as well. Obviously, nothing against the brands. It really is important to realize that when we work with brands, they're working with you because of the people that are on your platform. And when there aren't any people on the platform, there is no platform, and there basically isn't anything that they will gain or value. So I lost all of that. And I remember going through the most depressive couple of days in my life because I'd been building this page. You know, if you have been on Instagram for such a long time, you would know that there was a time where it wasn't as TikTokified as it is. We would see a lot of people come on your page, or you wouldn't see new creators on your page without actually searching for them. So reaching 10,000 was like a milestone a lot of people would work towards for months, sometimes even years. And I'd been one of those people who had been working on that page for years. And it was literally, I think, just one of like it was my baby. I was building a business out of it. And after losing it and losing the money, the biggest question I had to ask myself is, what am I going to do and how am I going to pivot? So a friend of mine gave me a call and she was like, listen, I know you're a bit depressed. I know this is what happened, but all you need to do is basically just start a new page. And I thought to myself, it took me years to get to a point where I am, to get to a point where I'm actually earning as much as I'm earning right now with this page. If I start a new page now, it's going to take me so much to even start earning again. Do I even have the strength to do that? What if it gets hacked? Like, there was just so many things or negative thoughts and ideas that I had concerning starting this new page. And obviously, because it didn't look like I had many choices, I started a new page. But one thing became very clear to me at the time. It was that because I've started this new page, I can no longer run it the same way that I used to run the previous page. I can no longer work on this page the same way that I used to work on the previous page, because what that revealed to me was that Instagram did not belong to me. And that if anything could happen to that account and then my business goes down, it essentially means I do not have a business as long as it lives on another platform. And the conversation that I want to have today, or rather the points that I would like us to really get into, is for all the people who are just creating content online, who are thinking of how to turn this content into a business and to make money and how to actually own that audience a little bit more. This podcast episode is specifically for you, because this is something that I've done over the past 2 years. And within a year, we launched the Resonate podcast. And now, just a little over 2 years, we've been on CNN, on BBC. We've gotten so much recognition. I think we've made a lot more money than we did with the previous account. And we've really built digital assets that are not dependent on different platforms. And I want to share with you guys the key guidelines and the strategies that I thought about at the time and I started to implement to have what we have right now. So let's get into it. The first thing that we're going to talk about is knowing where you are as a creator. This is so important. I think a lot of people, I attended the YouTube event event where they were teaching us on monetization. And this is literally what inspired this conversation that we're having today. And they were talking a lot about how some creators feel like they're being underpaid, or they really don't know like if they're being paid the right rate, because there's a lot of gatekeeping in the industry. And one of the things that I thought would be a great thing to overcome such things is being clear about where you are, because then that informs your strategy. So I'll tell you an example. If you are a small creator and you just have like a handful of followers, you know that maybe you are, first of all, in the space where you are taking collaborative work, you're taking trade exchanges, you are basically taking work based on building relationships so that you can progress in the market and you can be known a lot more. That might not be the time for you, depending on your niche and a lot of other matrix, that might not be the time for you to say, I charge X amount of money, or take it or leave it. You want to build yourself in the market, but only if you know where you are you able to formulate a strategy that helps you say yes or no to the relative partnerships and start approaching the right people for those partnerships. When you underestimate where you are, you become very dissatisfied. And I think also when you overestimate where you are, you definitely become more dissatisfied as well, because you don't have clarity around where you are and what where you are actually requires. That is also a very other important thing. Every single strategy is informed by where we are and where we want to go. So if you're going to come up with a brand strategy for 2026, what I want you to start thinking about, even when you think about your content, even when you think about the business you eventually want to launch or something that you want to do, I want you to be completely realistic around where you are. Yes, the rate card might say that you charge 10,000 for a specific thing, but is your brand there where you can equate the amount of value, the viewership, and all the other metrics that brands calculate to where you actually are? And if you're not, it's actually still okay. You can still build your way to that. But this actually allows you get into the market the right way. And I think this is going to be very important if you fully just know where you are as a creator, so that this can inform your strategy. The second thing that I did was to test my buying power by doing free firsts to actually help me negotiate with a lot of people. So what do I mean by this? When I started rebuilding my page, I knew that one of the biggest revenue drivers I wanted to now have at that time, we don't have it anymore in the business. Oh, we do, but we just don't do it as often. But what I wanted at that time is I wanted to consult, and I wanted to do this as market research. So what I did is that I dedicated a specific week, and I said to everybody that I had at the time that I'm going to be hosting consultations, and I'm going to charge, I think, about 200 Rand for a 30-minute consultation. And I got so many bookings from there. That was very little money to charge for a consult. But it wasn't about the money for me. More than anything, it was number one, I was trying to tell people that I'm in business and show them the value that I have. And also number two, I was trying to collect data around what people are actually struggling with within their businesses, within their content creation, so that I could start creating products and content and videos that will be able to help them. And usually sometimes I know we do this via like polls on the internet, and sometimes people respond, sometimes they don't. But for me, having that one-on-one almost like really gave me in-depth research around what small business owners are struggling with. But offering that for me for free, when I started offering it for 200 Rand at the time, even as time went and the prices started going higher because we were growing, I literally was now getting into the market with that. That I think within the first year of actually rebuilding my Instagram account became one of the biggest revenue drivers for my business. It was literally people coming and booking a consultation, but it's something that I started at a very, very small price. And I think it had to do a lot with the first point that I shared with you around knowing where your brand is. I knew that, yes, people could know who I am. I could have had over, I think, almost 18,000 followers at the time, but my account is lost now. I don't have those people. It's going to be a mission for me to get those people. And I can't wait to monetize until I get all of those people. So I have to start monetizing right now, but I can do that while I'm learning in the process. So I really understood where I was and how where I was did not call for certain things. And I ran with that course. And to this day, I'm still so proud, because most of the podcast episodes and the conversations and the content that we take, that we release for you guys, is usually and largely influenced by most of those data, and most of that data that we even still have to this day, and that we still do when we do consults every now and then. So this is very, very important. Test your buying power. That for me informed me as well, as part of testing the buying power, that number one, people who follow me do have the buying power to buy something either from me or for the other person. It meant that I could ideally approach brands if I wanted to, that wanted to sell something through me, and I could say, or I could even charge a little bit more to the brands that wanted to sell something. Why? Because I already had proof that my audience has buying power and they are actually able to transact with me and it largely with everybody else. So this is very, very important, because when you do test that buying power, you largely are informing the markets that, hey, my audience are people that are able to part ways with money when they see value. And brands love that. If you're somebody that wants to work with brands, but also for your business, it actually helps you kind of gauge where your audience is and how you can help them more. I would even say use it as market research, because that is something that I did for myself. And then the third thing is also a big pain for a lot of people, where they get an influx of emails for either trade exchanges or campaigns and brand work that are at very, very, very low prices. The third point is do not be afraid to negotiate. I used to tweet about this many years ago on Twitter before it became X. And one of the best things I used to say was that the best price you can give anybody is essentially a price that makes you smile. Like, nobody is going to beat you up or give you a penalty because you charged high, but you would rather start high for somebody to negotiate you down than for you to start down and realize that that very person was actually able to pay a little bit more than what you charged them, or the actual price that you actually wanted. So do not be afraid to negotiate. If a brand or people come and say they want to work with you and they want to pay you 10,000, but you actually charge 25, say, hey, I charge 25. Can we have a middle ground? Negotiation isn't always about you getting your way, but it's about you and the other person actually losing something to compromise to get to a place of agreement. And it's important that you realize that if you're going to build a brand, and particularly a business, you're going to have to negotiate, because there are people who will always be willing to pay you below your value. And it's not because they hate you or they don't see your value. No, they're trying to save a penny, because everybody's trying to save a penny. So because they're trying to do that and you say yes and you cower down to that, that's what's going to happen. There are times where you will negotiate, and sometimes people are just like, oh, sorry, we don't have the right budget. Would you still be willing to go ahead? And if you are, great. If not, that's also still okay, but do not be hell-bent. And I think the inability to negotiate sometimes comes from a scarcity mindset, because you feel like if you tell them that you charge more than they're offering, they're going to go to the other person and no longer work with you. But that is not true. Yes, there are so many people who are doing the same thing that you are doing, but there's also the reason why they came specifically to you and not to that other person, or even if they came to both of you. But the best thing you can do is negotiate. And I always say to people, if you're afraid of negotiating via email because you don't know whether or not they're going to get back to you, the best thing you want to do for yourself is, for instance, once you've seen the quote and once you've seen what they want to charge you, give them a call. And after you give them a call, or during the call, you say to them, hi, I just saw this. My actual price is actually 25K and I saw you offering 10K. Is there a way that we can come to a middle ground? I'd be so excited and be willing to work with you, but I just want to make sure that it aligns with, my KPIs and the value of my brand. They can say, we'll get back to you. They can say, actually, maybe let me see what budget we have. Oh no, let's meet at a middle ground. Let's do 15. I don't have, but you can then start building that relationship on that negotiation. But negotiating is always going to be part of the deal. Nobody is ever going to come and always want to pay you more than you're charging. That means you're undercharging if that's what's happening to you. But people always want to save a penny. And sometimes they hope that you're not aware of the worth that you bring to the table. And if you're not, good for them, because they get to benefit. They get to pay you very little for more results. But just make sure that that is not your story and you're able to actually negotiate so you can move the needle. The fourth and the last thing that I want to share with you that I really started thinking about at the time was thinking about the long-term strategy of my brand and my business, and making decisions from there. So I thought to myself, well, what does a year from now for my business look like? What do things look like for me in 2 years' time? And that enabled me to make the decision now. If I found myself wanting to work with a particular brand or wanting to do a particular thing 2 years from now, how do I then start nurturing either the relationship or the partnership? Right now, I think I saw DJ Zintle on TikTok posted a video about, like, sometimes when you start a business, you ask people to support you and then they don't. And then when they start a business, they come to you. Now they want support, but they refuse to support you. And I think that's always people who are very short-sighted and do not think long-term. Thinking long-term is, how do I also support this person? Not only to say, oh, I want to get something out of them, but generally because you value what they do. And should there be synergy in the future, they would be able to assist you as well. Or you guys would be able to be valuable towards one another. But it's important that your long-term decisions are influenced by what the plan is. So where are you right now and where are you trying to go? That is going to inform the brands you take. That is going to inform the people you hang around. That is going to inform the collaborations you say yes to. That is going to inform how much you charge right now. If the end plan is you're trying to build your own studio, you're trying to do all of these amazing things, you can't be charging little. You can't be undercharging yourself, because those things do cost. And because those things do cost, those things will need you to make an X amount of money for you to be able to buy them, or for you to be able to cater to those things so you can grow your business. So it's very important that you always have the overarching plan. I also shared something along these lines on my Instagram stories, and I was saying, when I was starting my business, I always used to hear people say things like, yeah, you must have vision, you must have the end goal in mind. And I always used to think like, guys, end goal in mind, like what? Just tell me what to do today. Like, I don't get this end goal conversation. But now that my business is growing, I see what they meant. I see the importance of having a vision. I see the importance of being in the now, but also looking at what does this look like a year from now? What does this look like 2 years from now? And then making sure that all of our daily, weekly, and monthly efforts equate to that. And that is something that is super, super, super key and important for you, especially if you're trying to also build a team. It's important that there's a specific vision that the team has to come in and align with, and not what other people want to do or how other people see the brand and the vision of what you want to do, but how you see it and how the team is going to come together to execute and make sure that this big and this great vision is something that we work towards together and we work on. So those are the 4 things for me that I think are very crucial for you to start thinking about. I know we are leaning towards the end of the year, and a lot of people are thinking about what they want to do last year. Maybe you didn't get to build the brand this year, and you're like, next year is going to be my time, or whatever the case is for you then. But right now, as you start thinking about where you are and where you want to go, I want you to take these 4 points and realize that those 4 points, along with all the other content that we share on this platform, if you really personalize them to the vision that you have and what you want to build, you are going to set yourself up for success. I mean, we have built literally this very YouTube channel that you're watching, if you're watching this on YouTube, that you could be watching from, had less than 10,000 subscribers 2 years ago. But we have exponentially grown over time because of consistency and all the other things. But most importantly, there was a vision in mind and where we wanted to go. And I fully believe that we're going to continue to grow even better and greater if you subscribe, like, and share, and tell all your friends that they must listen to this podcast and this YouTube channel. But we will continue to grow regardless, because there's a vision that we have in mind and that we want to reach. And I just want to encourage you to think about the same for your business. This is not, I know everybody's tired. Everybody's like, oh, I just want to close down the year. But I want to encourage you to start being reflective in this moment. Use that downtime that you are looking forward to start being reflective, to start thinking about what it is that you could be doing next, or that you could be doing more to be able to get to the next level of your vision and your dream, so that you can build. But do not only rely on social media platforms. Use things like there are different platforms. Use email lists if that is something that you want to start, so that you can move your audience from one specific platform to another. Spread your wings and don't only be on one platform. If you've mastered one platform, go to another platform as well, so that you can create that versatility with the different platforms should anything happen. Now, I'm not saying anything is going to happen, but I think it's just always important to diversify and not put all your eggs in one basket, especially if you're building anything with these digital tools that we don't own. So yeah, I hope that these points really spoke to you and that they're going to help you cultivate, think, and plan around the brand and the business that you want to build in the past year, because these are the things that have been 100% helpful for me in my line of work and in what I was building in light of everything that happened just a little over 2 years ago. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't liked, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you have not joined our Resonate Hub Plus membership club, please go ahead and do so. It is such an awesome platform. We have weekly masterclasses, and it's truly just a space where we get to learn, to grow, and to just continue to build global businesses all together with a lot of other global entrepreneurs. So thank you so much. Have yourselves a beautiful one, and we'll see you guys on our next podcast episode. Goodbye.